welcome to Lava Lamp. Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Leonie. It's actually a very rainy day today. I made myself a nice cup of tea. I'm drinking Earl Grey today. No milk, no sugar. I didn't really feel like wearing makeup today, so it's just a chill time. And also, Lava Lamp. So today I wanted to talk about how similar my taste in books is to the taste of the general public. And spoiler alert, it's not much. But I think that is to be expected. You know, there's always very loved and niche books that are loved by like a very specific group of people that may kind of fall flat with the general public. I think we all have, you know, a hidden gem, an underrated fave that we absolutely adore, but maybe not everyone does. But the question, of course, always is, how do you know if you see a lot of negative reviews on a book you want to read, if that's a sign that you should not read it because you're probably also not gonna like it, or if you're missing out on a fantastic book because your opinion on this book might be very different from what most people think. And that is the question that I want to explore and dive into and walk around today. So I made a list of the 20 least popular books that I've read. Some of these I was like, yeah, I understand they're not popular, no one should read these. And others I was like, these are one of my favorite books. I would almost lose my faith in humanity to see that not a lot of other people liked it. Now, how did I do this? First, I looked at the 10 lowest rated books that I've read. This is kind of a trend that has been going around on YouTube for years, because on Goodreads, people can rate the books that they read from 1 to 5 stars. And so there's always an average rating that a book has based on everyone's rating. And secondly, I looked at the 10 least rated books. It just means that it's not popular in the sense that not a lot of people have even read these books. Let's get started. This on top. Yeah, great. Using books as a coaster. That's not blasphemy at all. Let's start with the lowest rated books on my shelf and just go from like number 10 to the number one, like the lowest rated book that apparently I've read. Also, I will say I actually have 11 books because one of them is very obvious, so I didn't want to count it. Coming in at number 11, the 11 lowest rated books on my shelf, we have an old book that I really enjoyed back in the day, and it is Crimson Bound by Rosamund Pike. This has an average rating of 3.63, which might sound like not super low, but you have to realize that most people on Goodreads rate books 4 or 5 stars. So any average rating below 4 usually means that it's not a very popular book. This is a YA fantasy that is a Red Riding Hood retelling. Oh my gosh. Whoa. Oh, matchy. We love an accidental match. I would not consider this one of the worst books that I've read. I remember that the love interest in this book doesn't have any hands, and when I was 17 when I read this book, I thought that that was the most revolutionary thing, to have a love interest that wasn't like a perfect, flawless, broody Prince Charming. Coming in at also an average rating of 3.63, and this is the one of which I said, I don't know, it kind of doesn't count, but it's Twilight. Like, I think we all expected this one to be here. First of all, can I get a round of applause for these covers of the Twilight saga that I have that just have no title, no author, because just this image is iconic enough that people will know that it's Twilight. Not gonna lie, I actually thought this rating would be higher because of how popular this series is. I know that so many people, I adored this book when I first read it, so I actually expected it to have quite a high average rating, but I think this rating is just very skewed because of just still the amount of people that gave this 1 star. Look, I would love to say, oh yeah, I totally understand why people hate Twilight, but I'm gonna be honest, my only memory of this is from when I first read it as a 15-year-old, and back in the day I thought it was amazing, so I mean, I'm sure I would hate it if I read it now, but I'm not gonna torture myself like that. Number 9 of the lowest rated books that I've ever read really fucking pains me, and it is Beautiful World, Where Are You by Sally Rooney, which comes in at an average rating of 3.63. Now, if you've seen my recent video, you know that I adored this newest Sally Rooney book. I am convinced that the reason this gets a low rating is because people are just very used to more emotionally impactful, tragic stories from Sally Rooney, and we're just disappointed that this story is a little bit more hopeful and mundane. You know, like when the new Mitski album came out. If you don't know Mitski, she is a female artist who makes a lot of, well, let's just call it sad girl music. But when her new album came out, which is great by the way, people were mad because it wasn't sad enough. Like, how dare artists and authors be happy for a minute? How dare they? So should you read Beautiful World, Where Are You? Yes or no? If characters musing about politics and meaning and their own pain makes you think, ugh, pretentious, then no. If you often find yourself in a situation where someone is complaining about a piece of media and your retort is, yeah, but that was the point, then Sally Rooney in general is just really good for you. Okay, next. The next book comes in at an average rating of 3.61, and it is Allegiance, the 3rd book in the Divergent series. This is my Dutch copy from when I read it. Oh, this series fell off. This last book in this popular series mostly got a lot of hate because of its controversial plot twist, which I won't spoil for you. Personally, I didn't really have that much of a problem with the plot twist. I mostly just had a problem with how just bad this book is. Imagine setting up a dystopian world and setting up expectations and a story for 2 books straight, only for the 3rd book to be like, what if we made all of that irrelevant? What if we just destroyed all of that? I think this deserves its low rating, and frankly, it should be lower. Then another book with an average rating of 3.61 is one that I didn't expect, and it is Mrs. Death, Mrs. Death. I thought this was like really freaking popular. Apparently it's not. I personally thought it was fun. It was fine, not amazing. I think you would enjoy this book about the personification of death if you enjoy modern poetry, because this book is a combination of poetry and prose. And if you're okay with, you know, just a little bit of whimsy, a little bit of weirdness. Because there's some odd things going on in this book. Also, if you have a lot of personal experiences with death, I think this book might be very cathartic for you. Okay, we're dropping a lot lower. The next book has an average rating of 3.57. It is The 100 by Cass Morgan. Yes, the book that the show was based on. I haven't even watched the show, and even I can with confidence say you should just watch the show. It's probably better than this book. I think this book really is a testament of its time, with YA stories that had really interesting and cool sci-fi fantasy concepts. Like in this one, it's about 100 delinquents that are being sent back to Earth after it's been destroyed by nuclear war to try to survive and see if it's survivable, and just takes this really cool concept and then just, you know, just a little throws it in the bin and only focuses on extremely mediocre romance plot lines. Imagine landing on a nuclear wasteland that is Earth, trying your hardest to survive and maybe find a way to save humanity, and only worrying about whether this guy likes you back or not. I don't know. Actually, this does make sense. I'm pretty sure I would have done the same when I was 16. But the next one, with an average rating of 3.57, hurts my soul because it is genuinely one of my favorite books. I think if someone would come up to me right now and ask you what's your favorite book that you've recently read, I would say this book. And it is Bunny by Mona Awad, the book of books that is known to be so divisive. So I think this is my moment to clear the air and talk about who would like this and who would not. This book to me is a work of art, okay? If you like surrealism, if you like your Dalis, you might like this. If you like coming up with elaborate ideas on what the meaning behind a story might be and what the metaphors might all mean, only to then find out that people on Reddit had a completely different opinion and you were very far off, then I think you might like this book. You have to be able to accept that weird and bizarre things are happening that are not gonna make sense to you, and that you're gonna have to come up with your own explanation of it because the book is not gonna give you a clear one. Then the fourth lowest rated book on my shelf at 3.56 is The Star-Touched Queen by Roshni Chokshi. I think the world was just not ready for this book when it came out, because this is a clear example of no plot, just vibes. And back in, when did this come out? Back in 2016, we were just not ready for that, I think. Now, I will say this is not the most groundbreaking book I've read. It was very beautiful and fun, but just like, middle of the road. But a lot of people hated it because nothing happens. And I'm like, yeah, nothing happens. What about it? It's really just pretty beautiful descriptions of this magical fantasy kingdom. And it's great. If you picked this up back in 2016 because you thought it was gonna be another fun, high action YA fantasy, as was the norm back then, yeah, I totally understand that people were not gonna like it. But if you pick this up because you just want a no plot, just vibes, you might actually like this. Okay, we're in top 3 right now. The third lowest rated book on my shelves. I think we've all expected this book to be in here, with an average rating of 3.49 is Wilder Girls by Rory Power. Like Bunny, this book is just kind of weird. It's a horror book that is not particularly scary. There's just a lot of gross things happening, and it has a healthy little dose of existential dread. Again, most of the negative reviews on this book state just the weirdness and unclarity of it all, and so I think just like Bunny, you're gonna like this if you are okay with not fully having the text explain to you what it's supposed to mean and having to kind of put your own interpretation of it in order to enjoy it. Also, you have to keep in mind that it is horror. I think maybe judging from the cover, a lot of people didn't expect that, but it is horror. Like, it's gonna be gross and you have to be ready for that. I thought it was freaking amazing. Number 2. Okay, now we get into the fun ones. The second lowest rated book with an average rating of 3.3 is Star Daughter by Shweta Thakkar. This is the one where I'm like, yeah, I did not like this book either, and I understand that it has a low rating. I did not know that a book with a tournament in it could be this boring. I think it's just a classic example of a book with a very cool idea, a fantasy story about stars, like personifications of stars. Super dope. Just a little disappointing when the lore is never really explained or happens off page. And the lowest rated book on my shelf has an average rating of 3.0. That's insanely low. I forgot to pack it. Let me grab it. The book is called The Dog Walker by Leslie Schnur. Honestly, this cover should tell you everything you need to know. Let me explain to you the story behind this book. I was doing a book swap with my student association, so everyone brought in books that they didn't want anymore so we could swap, and there was one person who just went to a thrift store and got a bunch of random romance books that she found there, and me and my friends were like, you know what, let's all take one of these random romance books and then read them. And I picked up this one. Oh my god, it was so bad. Let's just say I understood why the original owner brought it to the thrift store to get rid of it. It's a story about a dog walker that uses her dog walker privileges to get into the house of this guy that she falls in love with through getting into his house every time she picks up his dog, and gets a little obsessed with him and just goes through his stuff more often to get to know more about him. And this is all supposed to be romantic, and they end up dating, and he doesn't know that she's doing this, and then she also somehow ends up having sex with his twin. It was so bad. I want to give it a 0. but I can't. So I gave it 1 star. So for the lowest rated books, let's take a moment to analyze. Some books just have a low average rating because a lot of people thought it was just average, and other books have a low average rating because a lot of people loved it and then a lot of people hated it. And it is exactly those kind of books where you have to realize, wait, I might actually be one of those people that's gonna love it. Because like I said, Bunny and Wilder Girls are 2 books that I loved, and if I had been swayed by just seeing the low average rating, I would have missed out on great books. But by reading the reviews, I could kind of figure out like, I think I'm gonna be one of those people that is really gonna love this book. Now let's look at, I guess, hidden gems. So the books that just have the least amount of ratings in general. Keep in mind, generally a super popular book will have hundreds of thousands of ratings. These are all books that have less than 10,000 ratings. And we're going from high to low again. Coming in at 9.7k ratings, we have Girls with Sharp Sticks, which is funny because this book was actually recommended to me as a hidden gem. It's a thriller about this girls' school where girls are being trained to be perfect, prim, and proper housewives, and it's about these girls slowly figuring out that that's bad and they're gonna try to break free, and it's very fun. Sometimes books just don't reach popularity because of maybe circumstances out of our own control. But they can be hidden gems. Next at 9,000 ratings, we have The Bedlam Stacks. This is from the same author who wrote The Watchmaker Filigree Street, which was hugely popular. And this one just kind of fell off, kind of flopped. It has a decent rating. I personally didn't like it. I think this is just a case of like a one-hit wonder kind of thing where an author has one book that's really great and then they come out with a second book and people have just lost interest. Coming in at 7.3k ratings, we have My Sister Rosa, another underrated favorite of another booktuber actually, Books Michelle. She gave this to me. It's her favorite book. It's about, well, my sister Rosa, who is a psychopath. And if you're creeped out by mean children, this book's gonna be a great thriller for you. Then at 6.5k, we have Stardaughter, but we already talked about that. Then, surprisingly, another one of the least popular books, least rated books on my shelves is These Violent Delights by Micah Nemerever. It's dark academia, which is what everyone is always asking more of. It has good reviews, people like this book, and yet it has not taken off at all. And I genuinely think the only reason for that is because it has the same title as another super popular book that definitely took the spotlight. I've been talking about this book so much. I'm just saying it again, guys. If I don't see the ratings on this book go up, I'm blaming you guys. You guys now know that this is a good book. You should read it. If you want dark academia, you gotta read this. It's really good. Oh, that's so cool. Now I can say that one of my favorite books is an underrated fave. Next at 5.4k reads, we have an old one. It's Assassin's Heart by Sarah Ahears. The story behind this one is that this was the first time that I decided to pre-order a book. Did not wait for reviews to come in. I just read assassin story with enemies to lovers set in a fantasy version of Italy. Sign me up! And then I read it and it was bad. It was just not a good story, and I was like, yeah, probably should have waited for the reviews to roll in. Okay, so next up I just piled together a bunch of books because when I was going through all my lowest rated books, I noticed a theme, and that was that there were just a lot of manga that I used to read like back in the day when I was like 15, 16. Like for example, I have here Alice in Murderland. Yes, it's exactly what you think that it's about. It was really bad. Wasted potential. Oh my gosh. Ooh. Hello. 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 Why did I dislike this book again? Hey. Hey. Then we have Sakura Hime which I never finished, but your typical shoujo magical girl manga. And then also Arisa, which was my obsession when I was younger. It was like a thriller whodunit. Next at 2.8k we have Mrs. Death, but we already talked about that one. At 2.4k we have The Girl and the Ghost, which is a very cute middle grade story that has a lot of influence from Malaysian folklore. I personally think that middle grade books are just more likely to end up low on the list because maybe kids read it, but they're just less likely to have Goodreads and clock it in on Goodreads, right? Okay, the next one. Coming in at only 1,600 people who have rated this book on Goodreads. I know that more people have read this. I am actually positive that way more people have read this, but I think most people just don't know that it's on Goodreads. But it is My Immortal. Which, oh, if you don't know, bless your heart. This is the infamous worst Harry Potter fanfiction ever. It's amazing and I highly recommend it to everyone. It's an extreme self-insert emo punk edit version of Harry Potter with our main character. Wait, do I know this by heart? Do I know this by heart? Wait, I have to remember. I think it's Ebony Dementia Raven Way with her leather boots and her black skirt while she's crying tears of blood. Absolutely amazing piece of high literature that should be required reading in schools. It's fan fiction, so you can just find it online. And obviously I rated it 5 stars on Goodreads. Then at only 1,100 ratings, we have another middle grade, which is Baker's Magic by Diane Zahler. I guess people just weren't ready for bread magic. Then we have The Dog Walker at 1,160 ratings. And then the least rated book on my shelf only has 400 ratings. Only 400 people read this book on Goodreads. You could like fill a big room with the 400 people that have read this book and rated it on Goodreads. And I was shocked to find out that it is A Certain Hunger by CJ Summers. Chelsea G. Summers. I talked about this book quite often. It was recommended to me as one of those unhinged women books on TikTok, so I really thought that it was more popular, but apparently not. Now it's a miracle that I found this book at the bookstore even. But it's a fun book. Okay, I guess maybe not a lot of people want to read about cannibalism. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's it. But hey, with the success of Fresh the movie, guys, come on. Don't be so shy. Just read about cannibalism. I need to stop talking about cannibalism on this channel. I'm a vegetarian, guys. You don't have to worry. You don't have to worry. Comment if you're one of the 400 people who have read this book. Okay, verdict time. I think what we've learned from this is that if a book has very few ratings and also low rating, that's a pretty good sign that it's probably just not very good. Sometimes books have low ratings but a lot of people have read them, like Wilder Girls and Bunny, just means that it's divisive. It's always gonna be hard to find out if you're gonna love a book that a lot of people disliked. So in the end, just like always, I do think it really comes down to picking up books for which the synopsis sounds like it would really be your thing, instead of just picking up a book because a lot of people like it. Or the other way around, if a lot of people didn't really like a book but the synopsis just really sounds like it contains topics that really are your thing, there's just a higher likelihood that you're gonna be one of those few people that do really like the book. But in the end, of course, there's always a chance that you're gonna pick up a book that you don't like, and in that case, I say just don't finish it. Move on to a book that you do like. Oh, okay. The lava lamp, I don't know what it's doing today, but it's kind of sticking to one side. It was really fun. I highly recommend doing this yourself as well, if you have a Goodreads, to just check what the lowest rated books are. I personally think it's a lot more interesting to look at than the highest rated books, because I also thought about including that in the video, but The highest rated books are just exactly what you expect. You know, like Sergio Mas and Six of Crows and all that stuff. But the lowest rated books, that's the interesting part. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to see more bookish videos where we talk about books all the time, you should subscribe to the channel. You can also follow me on social media. I really hope that you enjoyed this video, and I will see you soon another time. Okay, goodbye.